Good evening, this is your captain speaking.
I regret to inform you कि ये plane hijack हो चुका है.
Great pleasure for us to be welcoming one of India's foremost filmmakers, Anubhav Sinha, who's made many critically acclaimed movies, and he's now released his latest Netflix series, IC814. Welcome, Anubhav, on our platform.
Thanks for having me. Lovely to see you again.
Let me begin by asking you, all the commentary that I've been reading about this series, and I must admit I haven't seen it, and I intend to see it over this weekend. It seems to suggest that Anubhav Sinha has brought a different lens on what was at the end of the day a big hijacking drama, which ended up creating one of the most embarrassing episodes for India's polity. How is it in any ways different from what we know so far about IC814 hijacking?
I don't know what all, I'm not talking about Bhupendra because he will know a lot more than anybody else. But people at large know like 3 or 4 milestones that a plane was hijacked from Kathmandu, it went to Kandahar, and one person died, and we had to let go of 3 people, and we got our people back. These are large milestones. But when I went inside researching on it, so one, there was too many facts that I wasn't aware of. Too many. So that was very attractive to me. And that also allowed me to look at people involved in the positions of decision-making from all sides of the table. So whether it is the government or the bureaucracy or the hijackers or the crew, they were all decision makers at the time. There was a decision maker in Amritsar at the time. There was a decision maker in Lahore at the time and in Dubai. These were all people who were participating in this event as it was unfolding. And I got very interested in those people. And then I felt a very pushing need to know them, their motivations, their personalities. And that is where as I started knowing those people, those individuals, it kept becoming more and more fascinating. And that's what this series is about. The people, the decision-making, and the constantly unfolding thriller, a thriller that went on for days.
So as a viewer, what should one really be looking out for? Is it like a spy thriller? Is it like is it a testimony of how weak our political establishment was? Because there's been this theory as well that what happened with IC814, way back in towards the end of 1990s, 99, was perhaps one of the worst moments of Indian polity. Does this series magnify that impression more, Anubhavji?
I wouldn't like to say much on what I think. You will get to see it by the end of the series. But I don't personally see this as one of the worst moments of Indian politics. I don't.
Okay.
So and that's what I have tried to do, is to lay out facts as they unfolded and allowed you as a viewer to have a position of decision making. Would I do it any differently or not? And then you will have your own opinion because it was the whole episode, the whole event is not made up of one decision. It's made up of several decisions. And it played out in the manner it played out. And that's how I have tried my best, honestly, to lay it out for the viewers. And I have not, this is the first time that I've done something socio-political where I have tried my best to keep myself out of the picture. My opinion. Like Mulk clearly has my opinion. Article 15 has my opinion. Thappar has my opinion. Anek and Bhir too has my opinions. This does not see it from Anubhav Sinha's lens. This sees it from the perspective of how it played out.
Okay, and that's interesting. That's very interesting.
It's easy to look back with the benefit of hindsight and be judgmental about things and people.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. That when you did your research and you were telling me earlier that you went all over from Kandahar to Afghanistan, and maybe you got a chance to go to Lahore as well. But in terms of your conversations, if you had conversations with passengers, in hindsight, and what did you pick up? As journalists, I mean, I remember I was at the beginning of my career then, and we have these vivid memories of these pictures of people, relatives who were queuing up outside the Prime Minister's residence, and it was all becoming a massively embarrassing moment for the Indian political administration at that time. Almost 2.5 decades later, what is it that you picked up when you spoke to fellow passengers on that plane?
I think there's something that if you look closely, answers all your questions. So I was at a press event very recently with the captain, and in the audience were the students of aviation. And there was this lady who didn't look like a student. She was about 50 years of age. And I was very intrigued by her presence. And then she ended up saying something and we ended speaking to her. And she had come all the way from a distance to just meet the captain 25 years later. She was on the flight and she had come to thank the captain. And she had come with both her kids. One is a boy and one is a girl, and both are pilots.
Okay.
Now this tells me a lot of things. When she was sitting in the aircraft and the plane was going from one place to the other and they had no view on what was happening to them and what was going to happen to them, I'm sure she was very disappointed in the government and in the whatever, in the system. But as she came out and so many years passed, she learned what went on. Because inside the aircraft, she did not have a bird's eye view on the situation. And now she is grateful that she was rescued, and she's brave enough to go to an extent where she says, both my children will become pilots. So your opinion also changes depending on which point you are at in time.
So if I was to say, Anubhavji, that in many ways, perhaps, collective catharsis, closure, a lot of people may not have had closure of that event. Maybe this series enables them to get to that closure. Was that one of the factors when you were making this entire series?
If you're talking specifically about the people in the aircraft, I don't think, because they've gone through that trauma themselves, the trauma of uncertainty. There were various moments when all of them thought that now they will be killed one by one. And so those are feelings that you can't undo. But I'm sure they have found their own methods to move on and not think about those. I think this is largely about people outside of the aircraft who have nothing directly to do with the incident. They will be able to see it in perspective. And they will be able to have their own opinions on whether anything could have been done differently or not.
So all of us who've had the pleasure of knowing you, Anubhavji, look at you as a very deep political filmmaker. There's always a very deep and straight political thought in your creative work. This time, no political thought in IC 814?
So politics is something that you can't separate from yourself. But I have tried to keep my personal opinion on the event or on the people out of the picture. But by the end of it, you will know what I feel about it.
Because you are, your personality, your entire moorings in cinema is such that how is it possible for you to take yourself away, from something which is, as I said, is a milestone moment in many ways in Indian democracy, in Indian politics.
बनारस का रहने वाला नहीं, तब सब पूरा न जाए, लेकिन जितना भयल कह दे लिया।
चलिए,
सबटाइटल कर दीजिएगा आप। But from one Banarsi to other, one answer had to be in Bhojpuri.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Anubhav. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure speaking to you.